Hello. My name is Jasmine. I'm not really a full writer, but I like to write stories and specifically horror stories. This is one that I wrote. This one's called Theater or The Theater. And well, I hope you enjoy. A new movie had just come out, a thriller called Screening. Everyone wanted to watch it, but Ben was fortunate enough to book a seat in the front row. He was thrilled. He's always loved horror movies, but upon stepping inside, a chill ran down his spine. He couldn't help but feel as though something were wrong here. It looked like any other cinema. Popcorn stands, viewing rooms, slightly sticky floors, everything you'd expect. He pushes away the uneasy feeling and walks to the counter. What's a movie without popcorn? A large, please. Oh, and a Coke. And could I get a box of Whoppers too, please? Thanks. The tired-looking teen behind the counter nods lazily, though it looks more like his head just temporarily goes limp rather than actually nodding. And he turns to prepare the popcorn and other items. The worker works smoothly, almost robotically, and Ben notices that the building is suddenly silent, as if all the guests that were there had left. Ben continues on his way, taking his items, paying the worker, and heading to his screening. When he walks in, that uneasy feeling returns full force. The place is normal. Burgundy stadium seats, neat rows facing the blank silver screen, walls with curtains that might have been elegant at some point, dim lighting that casts everyone in the same sickly yellow glow. A few people sit scattered around, mostly couples and families, whispering amongst themselves with faces half hidden in shadow. Difficult to see in the dim lighting. A chill runs down his spine like cold fingers tracing each vertebrae one by one, each time he looks at one or more of the people. He ignores the warning bells in his head and slides into his assigned seat, thumbing through his phone to kill time. The loading wheel spins endlessly on his social media app. No signal. With a quiet sigh, he opens a mindless puzzle game he downloaded for airplane mode, tapping away until the house lights fade to black and the first thunderous notes of movie trailers assault the speakers. The volume is too loud, jangly, and the sound effects echo in his skull. Ben grins anyway and moves to shovel a fistful of popcorn into his mouth. It's already cold and slightly rubbery, and a kernel dives straight into the back of his throat, threatening to wedge itself there like a warning. He hacks quietly, swallows hard, and glances around to see if anyone noticed. Not even a single person looks at him, as if they're just puppets, there to make him appear less alone. He washes it down with a Coke, convincing himself that the previous oddness was just anxiety or too much anticipation. Then the movie starts. It's an old trick, movies about movies. The opening scene is a packed house at some grimy off-brand theater from the 70s. People on screen laugh and chat and jostle around in their seats, making Ben instantly aware of the silence in his own room. In the front row, the main character adjusts in his seat, and his name appears on screen. Ben. He tries to shrug it off, but the camera zooms in on the character, the voice hitting his ears with an unsettling familiarity. There are loads of people named Ben, but this is different. He looks closer, recognizing the slightly unkempt hair, the wispy gray eyes that stare at him from the mirror each morning, the reddish blonde hair that many mistake for ginger, and that oh so familiar bracelet around his wrist. He reaches for it, and the character on screen copies his movements. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Still, a chill runs down his spine, a reminder of the uneasy feeling settled in his gut. The movie continues. A character entering a cinema that looks similar to the one Ben sits in now. The character goes to watch a film, the same one Ben is there to watch. Ben feels a chill run down his spine and takes a moment to look around to see if anyone else is unsettled. When he does, he finds them simply staring at him. blankly. There's no emotion on their faces. Their eyes are empty, black, soulless, making every bone in his body scream at him to run, but he can't. His legs feel as if they've been turned to jello, arms stiff as boards, color drains from his face, his lungs freeing themselves of all of his air. The people around him start to move, following movements of characters on screen. He goes to scream, but no noise comes out, as if his vocal cords have simply ceased to exist. Fear blocks every one of his senses, making it impossible to think as the mysterious figures close in on him. What were once people are now mere humanoid creatures with blank eyes and unmoving faces. Glancing back at the screen, he sees himself in the exact position that he is in now. Front door. At last, something inside him snaps. He lurches to his feet, legs aching and half numb from sitting so long, but he barely notices. His spine pops, a sharp, ugly sound, and the room tilts. Dizzy, he sways, blinking away stars. The aisle stretches out in front of him, impossibly long like a bad dream that won't end. He tries to run, but his feet tangle and trip over themselves, sending him staggering forward. After what feels like forever, he makes it out of his row of seats, reaching the aisle, but when he turns back, he sees the figures just standing there, unmoving. One, a woman, tilts her head, almost as if confused, when an unidentifiable voice, distorted and inhuman, sounds over the speakers. Why are you running? We've only just started. The words are chased by laughter, high-pitched, wild, almost like a hyena's cackle, causing a cold shiver to race down his spine as he stumbles back, tripping over his own feet and falling, a sharp pain shooting up his side. His breathing quickens, the creature's eyes following his, with mangled grins and heads distorted at unnatural angles as he tries desperately to crawl away. Please don't run. The figure closest to him reaches out, a boy, a child, with deformed fingers longer and bent at wrong angles. We just want to play. More distorted laughter fills the room, high and haunting, until his breathing grows only more panicked, coming in short, quick gasps. Each heartbeat slams like a drum in his head, his eyes wide with horror as he stares at what he can only describe as demons. Their eyes bore into his very soul, reading him as if he were a book. Each gasping breath is accompanied by the stench of rotting flesh, crawling at the back of his throat and making his stomach lurch. Movement from the director's room catches his attention, making his breath catch in his throat. He can only make out the shadow, waving mockingly before vanishing in a burst of smoke. As if on cue, the figures that surround him drop to the ground like rag dolls, hitting the floor with a sickening chorus of squelches and cracks, turning into nothing but vile, rotting corpses, followed by an almost crushing silence. In his sudden solitude, Ben stands, slowly looking around at the carnage wrought by whatever was controlling what used to be living people. His stomach churns at the stench of rotting meat mixing with the sour taste of bile clawing at his throat. He ducks behind a chair and vomits, his eyes closing as tears sting and fight their way out. He pants, heaving, as it tears past his mouth, clutching his stomach. He stays there for a few moments before opening his eyes and being met with the face of a child. He jumps back in horror, though the child doesn't move. Its face looks as if it's melting off of his skull, an unsettling smile almost permanently carved into his face. One eye has fallen into its skull, and Ben gags as what looks like a centipede crawls its way out of the corpse's mouth. Ben drags himself to his feet, his legs trembling below him. He can't take his eyes off of the child, now covered in his vomit. His stomach lurches again and he covers his mouth. He holds himself up using the wall, his legs barely able to carry him as he makes his way out of the showroom. Immediately, Ben is met with the sounds of bustling movement, popcorn popping, people chatting, movies and other showings playing. The scent of buttery popcorn assaults his senses, temporarily drowning out the scent of the remaining scent of corpses. Crowds bustle past him, but no one spares him a glance, as if he simply isn't there. He weaves between strangers, bumping against them, yet no one spares him a glance. The doors are just ahead, always just ahead, yet each time he reaches for them, the crowd shifts in quiet unison, sealing the way without ever seeming to notice him. He curses under his breath as he reaches for the handle, but his hand is almost instantly knocked away again by the crowd. After trying far too many times to get to the handle, he finally gives up and turns around, scanning for another way out. He takes a moment to notice the workers at the counter, the families scurrying about to their own showings. The worker who greeted him is still there, with that same bored expression from before. He walks up, waving a hand to get his attention, and the worker opens his mouth to say something, but nothing comes out. His jaw falls onto the counter instead, almost comedically. Ben reels back, a strangled sound slipping past his lips, accidentally bumping into someone. He spins, looking down at the person, only to find the one-eyed corpse of the boy from before. The sunken eyes, the reek of rotting flesh, mixing with the sweet popcorn, as the normalcy turns into a hellish nightmare. Ben panics, staggering back only to collide with the counter. His breath trembles, his mind running wild with terror. He shoves past the boy who falls to the ground with the same squelch from before, and races past the unsettling smiles of people that he knows aren't alive. Right from before, right before his eyes, the people seem to decompose right in front of him, and he realizes that the stickiness from before isn't butter, it's blood. A stream, a scream of a scream tears its way out of his throat, and as he trips over a corpse. His hands red and sticky when he tries to push himself up. He fumbles and slips, and out of the corner of his eye he can see something. No, someone laughing. They're laughing at him. Rage bubbles in his gut, fueled by fear. He forces himself to his feet, clenching his fists, but the second he turns to look at the person, they vanish with the smoke once more. He growls in frustration, going to hit something when his fist collides with squishy and rotting flesh. A loud crack fills the room as he breaks the nose of the standing woman, and she stumbles back, falling just as the boy had, unmoving. The other corpses look at each other, almost confused before turning their wide grins on him, reminding Ben that this nightmare is nowhere near over. They stare blankly with their permanent smiles, watching and waiting for him to make just one wrong move. The scent of rot grows the more he stares back at them, daring to meet their gaze. His eyes start to water from not blinking, but he feels frozen in time. He blinks, just once, and then but when his eyes reopen, there's no one there but him. The smell lingers, a reminder of the horrors that had previously stood before him. He almost collapses with relief, a sob escaping his lips as tears fall from his eyes shamelessly. He curls up on the ground, crying for hours out of pure relief, finally convinced that he's safe. Eventually, he drags himself to his feet, legs trembling with the effort of holding himself up. He holds onto the wall to help himself stand, the rough brick scratching at his tender flesh. He slowly, painstakingly makes his way to the door, but just before he can, an announcement is made from a speaker that sounds right on top of him. "Ladies and gentlemen," the voice starts, a taunting symphony. "Tonight we have a very special guest joining us. We are so happy to have you here with us, Ben." The sound of his own name makes him freeze, his breath stalling. The voice is bright, practiced, but he can hear some underlying joke, meant only for him, the mocking. Someone is watching him. Someone is enjoying this. Something in him snaps, his fist clenching, and throat sore as he shouts, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" He's met with the same laughter from before, which only seems to make him more furious. lashing out and punching the wall, hard enough to cause his knuckles to bleed. The laughter echoes around him, seemingly coming from every direction, and he punches the wall again, cursing loudly. I'll kill you! I swear I will! I'll find you, and I'll kill you! He threatens, his throat sore and gravelly. The voice returns, now sounding even closer than before, the sound ringing in his ears. Oh, sweet, naive Ben. You won't be alive long enough to find me. Suddenly, as if they had all been called to action, the showroom's empty, the same grotesque puppets from before, some with limbs just barely hanging on. In seconds, they close in on him, and Ben screams. The sound of squelching and wet movement torture Ben's ears, making him stumble backwards. There's a loud click as the front doors lock, preventing his escape, as the sloppy, uncoordinated movements from the corpses close in on him. Some groan and reach out, their hands leaving wet stains on Ben's shirt, but he swiftly shoves them away, reaching for something, anything, to help him defend himself from these undead monsters. His fingers close around a hard object, and he doesn't stop to look at what it is. He swings, the object colliding with a woman's skull with a loud crack. Her head falls to the ground and her body collapses, no longer moving. Ben stares for a moment, but snaps out of his shock when long, clammy fingers grab his wrist. He spins around, another crack filling the room as his weapon collides with more bone. Again and again he hits them, each one crumbling to the ground like rag dolls. He barely thinks about it, his self-preservation guiding each violent swing, each bone breaking sounding louder and louder, the squelching of wet flesh against the hard object as he holds tightly. His breathing becomes heavier with each swing, but he doesn't dare stop, for he fears what may happen if he does. The bodies eventually stop coming, a mess of blood and rotting meat left to soak into the carpet. The door must remain locked, however, leaving him now completely alone, covered in blood and sweat. He pants, each breath making his entire body heave. As he calms, regaining his wits, he realizes he can hear something, a sound coming from one of the showrooms. A soft, gentle laughter, formed with music, almost comforting. He feels drawn to the sound, radiating safety, and finds himself reaching for the curtain leading to the room. But something stops him. The laughter repeats, almost like a broken record, and the music is distorted, unsettling, like a broken music box that isn't quite right. His hand brushes against the maroon velvet, and the sound seems to freeze, as if suddenly cut off. He quickly pulls back, but it's already too late. Footsteps grow closer. They stop, right in front of the curtain. The air around him grows stale, and the curtains open with the shriek of metal on metal, revealing nothing. Cold, dead silence, and the lingering sense that something was just there. Feeling drawn, he takes a slow step forward when something grabs his arm and roughly drags him in, closing the curtain behind him. Quiet, whispers a voice, a hand covering his mouth. If you want to get out of here alive, you'll listen to me, capiche? Ben goes to speak, to ask a question, but the voice shushes him. A hand covering his mouth, the hand covering his mouth tightening. Shh, don't speak, idiot. Do you want to get caught? Ben's stomach drops. Caught? By who? A few moments pass before the mysterious person removes their hand, speaking lowly. We're safe. For now. Ben doesn't wait, whispering with urgency. Who are you? What's going on? The figure shifts into the light, revealing short, dirty blonde hair and blue eyes that flick around the room anxiously. My name is Kate, she says, almost reluctantly, and I'm your only hope. Kate pulls him into a cramped hollow behind this massive screen. The smell of dust and mildew hangs heavy, and the faint hum of the projector rattles the walls around him. She crouches low, whispering fast, like the shadows themselves might overhear. This place, it isn't natural, she says. It never was. The man who runs it, he's got some kind of power. I don't know how it works, but No one who comes here ever leaves. I've seen him take their bodies, twist them like dolls on strings. They don't stay dead, they just serve. Ben stares, his words sinking in like poison. His own whisper scrapes out of him, almost too soft to hear. Who is he? Kate shakes her head quickly, her eyes darting like she expects him to appear at any moment. I don't know. I've been hiding for weeks. You're the first newcomer I've seen alive. The first one I've heard him talk to. Ben swallows hard. So what, you saying I'm special or something? Her gaze fixes on him, unreadable. For your sake? You'd better hope not. A few seconds of uncomfortable silence fill the small space before Kate jumps, pulling him further into the tight space. Ben goes to shout, but then he hears it. Slow, unpredictable footsteps, wandering the halls like a predator stalking prey. She watches the small opening between them and the rest of the theater closely, waiting for any sign of someone coming closer. Ben remains completely silent, his heart practically beating out of his chest, making it difficult to hear even hear the footsteps. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kate releases him, but her keeps her voice low. We have to move, she says shakily, helping Ben to his feet. Quickly. Ben doesn't ask. They slip out of the cramped space, staying low to avoid being seen. When Ben looks around, he sees people. No, bodies. They're poorly stitched together, bleeding, their skin wrinkled and sagging in many areas, as if it's melting off of their bones. He has to resist the urge to gag when flies swarm overhead, the sour smell assaulting his senses. They crawl along the sticky floors, his clothes growing uncomfortable the longer he's down there. Every creak of the floorboards makes him stall, his chest tightening and breath heavy, sure that the surrounding figures can hear it too. Kate crawls ahead, stiff and cautious, jumping at even the slightest of noise. She holds up a hand to silence him, spotting things he can't see. Wait, she says. Something is watching us. Ben freezes, suddenly on high alert, watching every slight movement. Kate slowly but surely reaches for the curtain, and just as she touches it, the corpses around them begin to rise. Panic rises in his throat, but he doesn't get the chance to do anything about it, as Kate grabs his arm and yanks him through the curtain, fleeing down the hall. She shoves him ahead, grabbing the closest thing available, a plastic popcorn bucket, and preparing to fight. Go! She demands. Room, down on the left. There's a staff area. Ben doesn't question her, running full speed down the hall and practically falling through the door, slamming it shut. He can hear her struggle and feels a sharp pain of guilt at leaving her out there, until the struggling and shouting eventually dies down. She stumbles through the door, caked in blood, grimacing. For a moment, there's a glint in her eye that sends a chill down his spine, almost like she enjoyed it. But the look fades, and he shrugs it off as adrenaline. She sits, she, she sits near him, checking briefly out the windows to see if she can see anything. Rule number 1, she starts, glancing past the blinds again. If you hear something, you don't freeze, don't listen, you run. Ben hesitates a moment, then asks, How do you know all this? How long have you been here? You don't want to know, she responds, looking away. He wants to ask again, but there's a slight wetness in her eyes that makes him hesitate. She finally joins him in sitting on the floor, a few moments passing before she breaks the silence. You did well. Ben looks up, surprised by the compliment. She notices the confusion and elaborates. Most people don't make it this long. Some give in, some get trapped, but you're a survivor. You're gonna need that if we're gonna make it out of here alive. Ben feels a surge of emotion, his chest tightening slightly as he looks away, and clears his throat in an attempt to cover the slight tremor in his voice. Thanks. Don't thank me yet, she says, her mouth twitching slightly. Not quite a smirk, not quite a snarl. Save it for when you're actually out of here. Her eyes linger on him for a moment longer than necessary. before looking away and standing again. Help me look around. We'll need whatever we can find to get out of here. And so he does. He opens the cabinets and drawers on one side while she covers the other. He doesn't find much, the occasional granola bar and water bottle. The silence stretches between them, almost like a warning, and he speaks to drown it out. So, he trails off, unsure how to continue. So, she responds, not glancing in his direction. Her movements sound quick, efficient, almost practiced. How'd you end up here? He asks, curiosity getting the best of him. Long story, is her response. He furrows his brow, finding himself to be slightly annoyed by her resistance. She sounds almost afraid of confiding in him. Unfortunately, before, Ben wanted answers. I think I deserve to know, he says stubbornly. Kate turns and glares, her posture stiff and expression annoyed. Why? She asks bitterly. Why do you deserve to know? Why should I tell you? Her fists clench in annoyance, but he can't tell if she is about to break or if she's going to lash out. Ben hesitates, not wanting to push her too hard, but still wanting answers. We're a team, he says. You help me, I help you. But we need to trust each other. Plus, it can't be that bad, right? Her posture slouches slightly at his argument, expressing softening. Fine. You want to know? I'll tell you. A few weeks ago, I had heard about a new movie that was only in theaters. I bought a ticket to see it here, but I immediately knew something was off. As a kid, I had to trust my instincts, so I did. I tried to leave, but the door's locked. I've been camping out for weeks, haven't been caught yet, though sometimes I think he's just fucking with me. She finishes her tale with a sigh, not looking him in the eye. Wow, Ben says, looking at her with wide eyes. For a moment, her story feels rehearsed, but the look in her eyes silences any doubt he has. I'm so sorry, Kate, he says, his heart clenching in sympathy. Kate wiped her face subtly, but then clears her throat. Yeah, well, let's just get out of here. Yeah? Yeah. He nods, a few seconds passing before. Thank you for telling me. She nods stiffly, looking back at the cabinets, her shoulders tight and movements almost guarded, like the confession had left her unbalanced, or perhaps weighed down by something. His shoulders shift slightly, but he lets the thought drift away, allowing himself to trust her. The rest of the search continues in silence, only the only noise being the occasional creak of opening cabinets. Whenever Ben locks eyes with Kate's, she looks away, and Ben wants to ask, but he knows she won't answer, so he lets it slide, locking it away for later. You done? She asks, breaking the silence. Ben stands, watching her expression with a mixture of concern and suspicion. Yeah. Are you okay? He asks, almost gently. Fine, she replies quickly. Let's just go. Ben nods slowly, but her eyes linger on his face for a moment too long. A faint emotion he can't quite identify flashing before her eyes. You're tougher than you look, she says softly, the words almost sounding like an apology. Don't forget that. She steps forward, grabbing the door handle with white knuckles and turning it. The halls are surprisingly empty, almost too empty. She walks in front, her hand holding onto his wrist, almost like a promise, as she guides him toward a small, run-down looking door he doesn't recognize. She opens it, and he finds himself wondering how she knew it was there. He doesn't ask, following her down as her grip on his wrist tightens, just a fraction, leading him down dark steps that feel almost like a trap. Her shoulders tremble slightly the lower they go, her steps heavy, almost regretful. He catches a slight glimmer on her face, almost like tears, but before he could say anything, they reach the bottom, landing on wood flooring. He squints inhaling and immediately gagging as the strong scent of rotting meat assaults his senses, making his eyes water. Kate watches with tears in her eyes, a quiet sob escaping her lips as she speaks, barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. And suddenly, everything makes sense. The room buzzes to life. Something cold and almost wet grabs his arm and pulls him back, unmoving. What? Hey! He shouts, a mixture of emotions tearing at his throat. Kate doesn't look at him. Watching in res- Kate doesn't move, watching in resignation as he's held back by the corpses from before. A man's voice speaks, deep and threatening. Ben, starts the voice, his own voice almost mocking. How kind of you to join us. Ben looks at Kate in shock and horror as realization dawns on him, tears springing to his eyes. You betrayed me, he shouts. How could you? I trusted you. Kate flinches as if his words were physical blows. I'm sorry, she says again, hand on her heart, as if wounded by her own decision. I didn't have a choice. Didn't have a choice, he snaps. You chose this. You chose this. A sob racks his body, watching as she turns away, hiding her own tears. I trusted you, he says, his own voice dripping with betrayal. You lied to me. A slow clap interrupts his cries, the man slowly stepping out of the shadows. He's tall, with a black hat and suit, blending in seamlessly with the shadows. What a show, he coos. I almost didn't want to interrupt. That rage, Ben. The man smirks, leaning towards him slowly. You wear it so well. Kate lets out a strangled sob. Stop, please, she begs. The man turns to her, using his hand to tilt her chin up, forcing her to face him. Oh, my sweet, sweet Katie. You did so well, bringing him here. Your sister would be so proud. She pulls away as if burned, and a heavy cry escapes her throat, making Ben flinch. Leave her alone, he shouts, determined to find out the truth. Despite the betrayal circling his heart, tell me the truth! The mysterious man turns to face him once more, his grin almost unnatural. Oh, yes, please do, he says, pushing Kate forward. Tell him, dear. Every gruesome detail. Kate stumbles forward, her face wet with tears, any previous guard replaced with vulnerability. Hurt, pain, guilt tearing through her with each sob. I'm sorry, Ben. I'm so sorry. I had to. Ben feels a pang of sympathy, but hardens himself at the memory of her betrayal, even as she continues. My sister, my baby sister. He said he wouldn't hurt her. I couldn't let him hurt her. The man smirks cruelly, resting a hand on Kate's shoulder in a grotesque parody of comfort. His fingers tighten, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind her that she belongs to him. Such loyalty, he murmurs, his voice dripping venom. So very weak. He chuckles, low and hollow, each note echoing with malice as he steps closer, his shadow swallowing them whole. Tell me, Ben. He tilts his head, eyes gleaming. How does it feel, knowing your life was worth less than another's? That even your only ally chose someone else over you? The words hang in the air, heavy and suffocating, forcing Ben to face them. His breath catches in his throat as he watches Kate break down, no longer having t- no longer having no answer to the question. Something in him snaps as the man's grip tightens on her shoulder, struggling against the cold hands holding him back. Stop! Stop it! What do you want from us? He shouts, anger fueling his fight. What do I want? Asks the man. Silly naive, Ben. I want this. The man spins, jacket floating slightly at the abrupt turn, and he flicks a switch, turning the lights on, revealing an army. Men, women, children of all ages, in various states of decay, standing perfectly still before them, as if waiting for instructions. They don't move, don't breathe, don't blink. The room is suddenly silent, and Ben swears even Kate has stopped crying. That's when he realized that she has. He turns his head enough to see her. Her face is pale, her eyes wide with horror, stealing at one of the beings. He follows her gaze, his eyes landing on what looks to be a young girl, her face thin, face gaunt, yet bearing a striking resemblance to Kate. His eyes lock with Kate, watching as something in her snaps. Slowly, she turns to face the mastermind, looking him in the eye. You cheated, she said, her voice soft yet enraged, sending a chill down Ben's spine. You lied. Oh, sweet Kate, the mastermind says. I never intended to keep that stupid promise. A few seconds pass, feeling like hours before she pounces. She tackles him to the ground, enraged and heartbroken. His control on the corpses falters, giving Ben enough room to tear free from their grip. He stops for a moment, considering helping, but he turns and runs, jumping up the stairs 3 at a time. He can hear the mastermind shouting, mixed with Katie's enraged cries, and sounds of shuffling around, but he doesn't stop running. Bursting out the door with a loud bang, Katie shouts from down the steps, but he can't make out the words, dodging past corpses to the door. He fights, attacking with random objects, before making it to the glass door. Just before he can open it, he hears a voice. Ben! Shouts Katie, making him turn to face her. She throws something at him, the plastic bucket she used to defend him the first time. Take care of yourself, okay? She says softly, before turning back and returning to the mass of corpses, walking as if resigning herself to her fate. Ben sobs, catching the bucket with shaking hands. I will. I will, he promises, before finally smashing the glass and stepping out into the sun, leaving the sounds of screams and fighting behind him. Wow. And that was The Theater, written by me. Um, I know there are a few mistakes in here, but I've tried to record this like 3 times and it hasn't really worked out very well. So, I'm settling with this. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did and want to, feel free to leave a comment. I've got other a lot shorter horror stories that I've written before, and I can go ahead and read some of those. I've also got some not horror stories if you prefer those. And I'm always writing new things, so if you would like me to read one of those, I can also do that. Or if you'd rather I stopped reading altogether, well, that one's not gonna happen. But, you know, feel free to leave a comment or like the video or subscribe. I'm kidding. Do whatever you want. Your choices have nothing to do with me. But without continuing to make this video any longer than it already is, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening to my little story. Have a good day. And I hope whoever did enjoy this enjoyed it. I should stop. Thank you. And good night, or good morning, or whatever time of day it is. Peace out.